As I stated before, I have been dual programmed, i.e., my original coding was implanted in my brain by Department S34 Freemasons and involves a lot of Masonic code. Indeed, after that, I underwent a neurochemical overwrite by GRU occult cells, i.e., Russian Satanists, who encrypted my brain with Cyrillic ciphers and various mechanisms of programmings meant to basically conceal the information that the GRU were imparting into my brain from the Department S34 handlers, though there is a lot of overlap between the operations of Department S34 and the Russian GRU occult networks. So it's interesting to consider there is a lot of overlap. And a lot of this overlap takes place in the city of Belgrade, where I was located for a time after my experience in the Russian Federation that involved the Rostov tragedy and the murder of my girlfriend Kati by networks of System, who were themselves handled by Russian GRU occult cells, though they were acting on the authorization of the Department S34 networks at Grenville Lodge through a Wiltshire police continuum. So it's interesting to consider how all of this interlinks. Indeed, one has to look at the influence of the Paracelsius group in all of this. Indeed, the Paracelsius group are involved in the kidnapping of Russian schizophrenic super spies to auction in Wiltshire. So it's all very interesting to consider how all of this comes back down to Wiltshire and the fact that the auctions of the paranoid schizophrenic super spies take place in Wiltshire, mainly in devices. Indeed, the Russian schizophrenic super spies that are trafficked via Project Miranda are kept in containment facilities beneath the Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop and the Roundway Asylum. So it's interesting to consider how all of this links up into this rather unique situation that is existing, what with the Paracelsius group's operations and the kidnapping of schizophrenic super spies and their containment in devices underground facilities where the majority of these auctions seem to take place in the crypt system beneath devices such as the crypts beneath Moonraker Lodge number 8747 and the crypt beneath Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop. Indeed, these auctions take place in these crypts with various international buyers from private intelligence firms and rogue state intelligence agencies bidding for these Russian schizophrenic super spies for mind control programming purposes and wishing to use them as hypno-programmed couriers and assassins and operatives within their own operations. So it's all very a very strange scenario indeed. It seems that the mast, the communications mast outside the Wiltshire Police Headquarters in Devizes has built-in psychotronic warfare functions, and these are to target schizophrenic super spies whose amnesiac barriers are beginning to break down. And indeed, if I was to step within a 5-mile radius of the Devizes Police Headquarters, all of my amnesiac barriers would be returned via the psychotronic beaming grid. So it's a very strange concept. Indeed, it seems that the device's psychotronic beaming grid isn't powerful enough to cover the entire county. So at the moment, I am being beamed at by a mast, a communications mast, and intense communications machinery from Warminster Military Base, as rogue intelligence units connected to Department S34 have hijacked the military's communications network there and are able to transmit broadcasting frequencies and psychotronic beams at me from the Warminster Military Base hub. So it's all part of my ongoing targeting as part of this Project Miranda experiment dealing with schizophrenic super spies who have basically once been a part of either Project Aniseed in the United Kingdom or Project Yuri in the Soviet Union, Russian Federation. And these schizophrenic super spies are tracked and monitored, and their brainwaves are harvested and their neural data is harvested, and they are basically continually put into operational capacity. Indeed, I haven't been utilized in operational capacity for a long time now. Indeed, my last utilization in operational capacity was when I was commanded to operate in the Gladio 4 program via hypno-programming. Indeed, I was operating as a Nazi fetishist schizophrenic super spy for the Department S-34 agenda in terms of the soft introduction of ethno-fascism in the United Kingdom. Indeed, I was operating for reasons unknown to me as a hypno-programmed Nazi intelligence asset. So it's all very interesting to consider the fact that I didn't actually have a clue what was going on, and I was never comfortable with the Nazi fetishist ideology and imagery that had been implanted in my brain by Dr. Leonard Johnson of the Paracelsius Group and Department S-34, who was handling my programming ever since my return to the United Kingdom. Indeed, Dr. Leonard Johnson had me picked up in the spring of 2015 and taken to a black site in the Wiltshire countryside and began synthetic drug narco-hypnosis on me and a new layer of mind control programming to add to the layers of mind control programming that had already been implanted in me by Department S-34 at Grenville Lodge and by the Satanist cells of the GRU at the Orlovka Asylum in Voronezh. Indeed, the psychiatric facility number 74 that I was located in, although being under the jurisdiction of the Serbsky Institute up in Moscow, was a branch of the Orlovka Asylum in Voronezh. And indeed, a lot of deep programming codes were written into my brain utilizing Cyrillic ciphers in this institution. And I basically became hypno-programmed with codes implanted in me by the GRU that could basically create a new amnesiac barrier. Indeed, I believe I witnessed the mass murder of several Russian mental patients by the GRU during my time at the Orlovka Asylum, which was one of the reasons they decided to implant serious retrograde amnesiac barriers in my brain. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, they also attempted to determine to create an amnesiac barrier so that I would forget that I ever had a beautiful brunette Russian girlfriend called Katy, who was murdered by System in coordination with GRU occult cells on the authorization of the Department S-34 networks at Grenville Lodge and their Wiltshire police proxies. And indeed, I forgot about this girlfriend for a long time, apart from when certain memories began to break through over the years. And I remembered the love I felt for her and the fact that when she was murdered, I had broken out of the Orlovka Asylum briefly and was hiding with her in Rostov-on-the-Don. She was from Vladikavkaz, and that is where we'd met, but we were hiding out in Rostov-on-the-Don, and I'd begun my intercepts and had begun to upload videos to the internet detailing the GRU's attempt to implement a neurochemical overwrite on my brain and to beginning to expose the Paracelsius Group's auctions and the Department S-34 operations at Grenville Lodge. Indeed, this was met with much consternation by my handlers in both the British Freemasonic networks and the Russian GRU networks, and therefore they devised a plan whereby they would murder my girlfriend Katy in what I have now termed the Rostov tragedy, and I was returned to the Orlovka Asylum in Voronezh, which I then proceeded to escape from again, and made my way to Belgrade in Serbia, where I was then handled back into the United Kingdom by Department S-34 operatives, utilizing a ghost passport. Indeed, I was put into a sedative, hypno-programmed narcosis state by my handlers and was basically walked through customs, not knowing what was going on at all. And indeed, I returned to the United Kingdom with severe amnesiac barriers, and due to the proximity of the town of Caen to Devizes, they were able to utilize small transmitters within Caen to build on the main transmissions from the Devizes police headquarters communications mast psychotronic beaming grid, and were able to induce amnesiac barriers through these small transmitters that were harnessing the energy from the larger transmitter at the Devizes police headquarters, so they were able to put me back into an amnesiac barrier. However, due to certain frequency jamming, in the spring of 2015, the amnesiac barriers began to break down, and I began to figure out that something had occurred at Grenville Lodge, in tandem with certain episodes of my time in the Russian Federation. And this was when Dr. Leonard Johnson stepped in to conduct a synthetic drug narco-hypnosis brainwashing program on me at various Wiltshire black sites dotted about the Wiltshire countryside and underneath the Green Lane psychiatric facility. So indeed, at this point, I became part of the Roundway experiment, designated TF-84, and indeed the Roundway experiment handles a lot of the Russian schizophrenic super spies who are kidnapped by the Chechen mob and transferred to Paracelsius Group holdings for the auctions coordinated by the Paracelsius Group. So a lot of this all interlinks, and indeed the Roundway experiment is an ongoing project where the Department S-34 networks and various British Freemasonic networks are attempting to weaponize Russian schizophrenic super spies in the ongoing Cold War scenario against the Russian Federation. So it's interesting to consider the kidnapping of these Russian schizophrenic super spies takes place from secret psychiatric facilities in the Russian Federation, overt psychiatric facilities in the Russian Federation, and off the streets of the Russian Federation. The Paracelsius Group usually utilize local proxies such as the Chechen mob to commit these kidnappings, and the Chechen mob then transfer the schizophrenic super spies to Paracelsius Group trafficking rings, and they are brought into the United Kingdom through the docks, disguised in containers that supposedly contain laboratory equipment or agricultural machinery. Indeed, private security firms and customs officials oversee, corrupt customs officials oversee these transfers that eventually wind up in the paranoid schizophrenic super spy being entombed in a basement in Devizes and then auctioned after having been put through the Roundway experiment. Indeed, they are first put through the Roundway experiment, where they are implanted with coding and amnesiac barriers and undergo the complete compartmentalization of the brain via narco-hypnosis techniques perfected by Department S-34, and then they are sold at auction to the highest bidder. Indeed, it's still very interesting to consider that although many of these paranoid schizophrenic super spies are auctioned, the auctions are quite clear that these specific networks that are bidding at the auction must be in line with Western cryptocracies, rather than selling the Russian schizophrenic super spies back to intelligence agencies and security firms that are aligned with the Russian Federation. It is a must that the private security contractors, private intelligence firms, and rogue nation-state intelligence agencies that are interconnected together with the Project Miranda experiment, it is vital that these networks be aligned to the geopolitical ambitions of the United Kingdom and the United States rather than the Russian Federation, as indeed these paranoid schizophrenic super spies are to be weaponized in a possible Cold War II scenario. So it's interesting to consider there are a lot of paranoid schizophrenics disappearing mysteriously from the Russian Federation, and these paranoid schizophrenic super spies end up entombed in containment facilities beneath various parts of the town of Devizes. So it's interesting to consider indeed any failed test subjects that completely break within the programming are harvested for their organs by Walter Rose and Sons butcher shop butchers. And interestingly, the organs are sold to Russian elites. So there is a rather dark Masonic in joke in this whole process, which basically means that the Freemasons are always victorious in this conflict, basically. So it's all very interesting to consider and all very strange indeed. This is a very, very, very strange scenario. A lot of the funds from the Walter Rose and Sons organ harvesting black budget are spent on the upkeep of the psychotronic beaming grid centered in Devizes at the telecommunications mast at Devizes Police Headquarters. And indeed, this telecommunications mast tracks paranoid schizophrenic super spies within the county of Wiltshire and indeed harasses them digitally and monitors their brainwaves. However, as I've stated, I don't believe that the Devizes telecommunications mast is powerful enough to cover the entire county of Wiltshire. So the Warminster military base telecommunications network and digital hardware mechanisms have been utilized to continue the psychotronic beaming of me and to implement the voice to skull technology in my brain that is implanting voices, thoughts, and memories in my mind and attempting to maintain the amnesiac barriers within my brain. Indeed, it's interesting to consider that at some points these frequencies are jammed, so I am able to upload these video logs. And indeed, it seems that there may be a network that are jamming these frequencies to enable me to be able to upload these video logs, though generally most of the day I am existing in a semi-amnesiac state and a state of confusion. Indeed, this is really quite an annoying situation whereby I have severe retrograde amnesia and cannot remember a lot of events that occurred between the years 2012 and 2021. Indeed, at times the amnesiac barriers do begin to break down, and certain elements of my espionage operations in the Eastern European territories do begin to bleed through into my consciousness, including the hypno-programmed implanted Cyrillic ciphers that were maintained in my brain by the GRU. Indeed, it's been a long time since the GRU have picked me up for reprogramming. However, I do believe that in early 2020, the GRU may have picked me up for reprogramming, though it could have been the Paracelsius group network surrounding Dr. Leonard Johnson and Department S34 oversight who wished to implant another neurochemical override in me that would basically allow the Department S34 networks to utilize the Blackwell legacy on me, whereby I would believe I was a Russian GRU agent. and therefore would conduct myself accordingly and could be shut down potentially by the security services, i.e., the legitimate security services of the United Kingdom, rather than a rogue intelligence network such as Department S34. Indeed, it's interesting to consider that the Department S34 networks attempted to maneuver me into the hands of MI5 so that I could be shut down officially through official channels, rather than having to resort to potentially a messy assassination or a feigned suicide, or indeed the possibility of the British Freemasonic networks losing my intellectual capacity to the Russian GRU entirely. So it's all very interesting to consider indeed. I seem to have been weaponized by networks of British Freemasons and Satanists within the Russian GRU for a purpose that I am altogether unknowing of. So it's all very interesting to consider, and indeed, I'm going to leave it there now. Thank you.